You miserable, selfish man. I heard Robert, my own son, scream as I lay on my kitchen floor after tripping over a chair. Instead of helping me up, he just kept yelling. You always have to be the center of attention, making a scene even on your own birthday. Brenda, my daughter-in-law, laughed from the doorway, holding her champagne flute as if she were watching a show. Get up, Eleanor. Stop playing the victim. You're 71 years old. You can't keep manipulating us with these little scenes. My knees were bleeding against the cold tile I had scrubbed just that morning to welcome them. The physical pain was nothing compared to the words coming out of their mouths. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine as they looked down on me with contempt, was that 3 days ago I had sold the house, everything, the car too. The new owners were coming tomorrow with the keys, and I would no longer be here to listen to their insults. I managed to pull myself up by clinging to the edge of the table, the same table where I had served thousands of meals to my family for decades. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from a cold rage that had been quietly growing for months. Anna, my 16-year-old granddaughter, ran to me with tears in her eyes. Grandma, are you okay? Dad, why are you yelling at her like that? But Robert pushed her away with a wave of his hand. Anna, stay out of this. Your grandmother needs to understand that she can't control our lives anymore. Controlling their lives? What an irony. For 50 years I had been invisible to them. The silent widow who cooked, cleaned, and paid the bills without complaint. The mother who lent money without asking for it back. The grandmother who provided free childcare on weekends. But now, when I needed help getting up off the floor, I was a manipulator. You're right, Robert, I said, my voice so calm it surprised even me. I'm not going to control anything anymore. He smiled, believing he had won. Brenda raised her glass in a mocking toast. Finally, let's drink to Eleanor learning her lesson. The champagne bubbled in the crystal glasses I had inherited from my mother. The same glasses that would be gone tomorrow. I walked to the bathroom to clean my knees, and from there I could hear their unfiltered conversation. It was about time she had a reaction, Brenda said. The psychologist was right. You have to be firm with stubborn old people. Robert laughed. Tomorrow I'll talk to the lawyer to speed up the power of attorney. This house is worth a fortune, and she can't manage that much money on her own anymore. Power of attorney. House. Money. There it was. The naked truth. They hadn't come to celebrate my birthday. They had come to celebrate that soon everything would be theirs. As I cleaned the blood from my knees, I remembered the phone conversation I had accidentally overheard 2 weeks ago. Robert talking to someone about cheap nursing homes and selling fast. In that moment, something inside me died forever. Or maybe something new was born. I returned to the living room where my family was pretending everything was normal. Robert had poured more champagne, the bottle I had specially bought for the occasion. Brenda was nibbling on the appetizers I had been preparing since 5 o'clock in the morning. Anna looked at me with concern, the only one who seemed to realize that something fundamental had changed in me. Eleanor, come, sit here, Robert said, patting the sofa with a fake smile. Let's talk like a family. We want to help you. Help me. The word sounded hollow, coming from someone who had left me bleeding on the floor. I sat, but not where he wanted. I chose my favorite armchair, the green velvet one I had bought when he was a boy, dreaming of becoming an astronaut instead of a man who planned to rob his own mother. Mom, Robert continued in that syrupy voice he used when he wanted something. Brenda and I have been thinking, this house is too big for you, and handling money at your age? Well, it's normal to get confused. We want to take care of you. Brenda nodded like a puppet. We've seen some very nice assisted living facilities, with gardens, activities, people your age. You'd be happier. Happier, without my house, without my memories, without my independence. Happier being an old woman deposited in an institution while they sold everything I had built with 40 years of work. And what if I don't want to go to a facility? I asked with genuine curiosity. I wanted to know how far their plan went. Robert exchanged a look with Brenda. Mom, sometimes we don't know what's best for us. The doctor says that at your age, it's normal to lose some decision-making capacity. That's why power of attorney exists, so your family can protect you. Protect me? The cruelest word of all, coming from the one who had just humiliated me on my own birthday. Anna stood up abruptly. This is wrong. Grandma isn't crazy. She's just sad because you treat her horribly. Brenda silenced her with a venomous look. Anna! The adults are talking. Go to your room. But Anna didn't move. She came over to me and took my hand. Grandma, you don't have to do anything you don't want to. At that moment, a strange calm washed over me. A tranquility I hadn't felt in months. Anna was right. I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to. And what I wanted was already done. The papers signed, the keys handed over, the new owners waiting. Tomorrow, when they rang the doorbell, my dear family would discover that their miserable, selfish matriarch had played the game better than they had. 3 weeks before that birthday, from hell, it had all started with a seemingly innocent phone call. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was watering my geraniums in the backyard when the phone rang. Robert's voice sounded strangely sweet, like when he was a boy and had broken something. Mom, how are you? We haven't talked in a while. I should have been suspicious immediately. My son never called just to see how I was. Brenda and I were thinking of organizing something special for your birthday, he continued, an intimate family get-together. We haven't celebrated together in years. His words filled me with a foolish hope that I'm now ashamed to remember. I had spent so long feeling invisible, so alone in this house that was too big, that the idea of having my family close excited me like a little girl. Really, son? Will Anna be there too? I asked, unable to hide the joy in my voice. Anna was my weak spot, the only one who still hugged me with genuine affection, who stayed to chat with me after the obligatory family dinners. Of course, Mom. Anna is excited. She says she wants to help with the decorations. A lie. Anna would later confess she didn't even know about the party until the day before. That night, I couldn't sleep from excitement. I planned the menu. I thought about what I would wear. I even took out the family photos I kept in boxes to decorate the table. How pathetic I seem now. A 70-year-old woman getting her hopes up because her family pretended to love her for a day. But I didn't know it then. Then, I believed that maybe, after years of coldness, something had changed. The following days were an emotional roller coaster. I called Carol, my neighbor, to tell her about the party. Eleanor, that's wonderful. I haven't seen Robert around here in so long, she said as we shared coffee in her kitchen. Carol had always been good to me. But that day, I noticed something strange in her eyes. A kind of pity that I didn't know how to interpret until much later. I went to the grocery store and bought the best of everything. Shrimp, smoked salmon, that French cheese Brenda liked, expensive champagne, the Belgian chocolates Anna adored. I spent more on food than I had all month. But I didn't care. It was my birthday. My family was coming to see me, and I wanted everything to be perfect. On the Friday morning before the party, I was cleaning the living room windows when I heard voices in Carol's backyard. It was Robert, talking on the phone. His voice carried clearly over the wooden fence. Yes, doctor, I've already spoken with the lawyer. He says with the diagnosis, it will be easier to get the power of attorney. My hand froze on the glass. Diagnosis? What diagnosis? No, she doesn't know anything yet, Robert continued. The psychologist says it's better to act gradually. First, the party, to make her feel loved, and then present the options as if it's our idea to take care of her. I felt as if the ground were opening up beneath my feet. The party wasn't a gesture of love. It was a strategy, a calculated manipulation to soften me up before the final blow. I hid behind the curtain, trembling, as Robert kept talking. The house is worth at least $400,000. With the sale and her pension, we can pay for a decent facility, and we'll still have money left over for Anna's expenses. Private university, you know. Private university. Paid for with the sale of my house, the house I had bought with my husband's life insurance money, which I had maintained for 30 years by working as an accountant. When Robert hung up, I ran to the bathroom and threw up, not from sickness, but from an emotional nausea that pierced me like a dagger. My own son, the person I had raised with unconditional love, was planning to rob me. And worst of all, he was using my birthday as bait. That afternoon, I pretended everything was normal when Anna came to visit, but I watched her differently, looking for signs of complicity. Grandma, Are you okay? You look pale, she asked with genuine concern. It was real. Anna's affection was the only real thing in this whole lie. I'm just excited about the party, my love, I lied. Did your dad tell you what they're planning? Anna frowned. He just said it was going to be a surprise. Mom has been very mysterious lately, whispering on the phone. Mysterious. Right. Brenda was organizing my living funeral while I was buying shrimp to feast her with. Anna, do you think I'm a burden to your family? I asked suddenly. I couldn't help it. What? Of course not, Grandma. Why would you ask that? Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Dad and Mom are sometimes, well, they're complicated. But you're the strongest person I know. You raised Dad on your own. You've worked your whole life. You keep this house perfect. I want to be like you when I grow up. That night, after Anna left, I sat at my desk and opened all the drawers. Deeds, wills, insurance policies, certificates of deposit. 50 years of meticulous work, of sacrificial savings, of smart decisions. All in my name, all under my legal control. Robert had underestimated his mother. He thought I was a confused old woman who didn't understand paperwork. But I had been an accountant for 20 years before I got married. I knew exactly what I had and what it was worth. I took out a sheet of paper and started doing calculations. The house, according to recent bank estimates, was worth $450,000. The car, though old, still had value. The investments, the savings, all together it came to over $500,000. Money I had earned with my work, that I had multiplied with smart decisions, that I had saved for security in my old age. But that security no longer existed. My own family was my greatest threat. The following Monday, I called my lawyer. Arthur, I need to see you urgently, I said. Arthur had been my husband's friend, an honest man who had always given me good advice. Eleanor, is everything all right? You sound worried. I need to sell the house and the car, quickly, and I need to do it without anyone finding out. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Eleanor, are you sure? That's a huge decision. Have you talked to Robert? Robert. The name burned in my throat. Especially, I don't want Robert to find out. Arthur, I trust you. Can you help me or not? That same afternoon, I was in his office, signing papers. Arthur had found me immediate buyers. A young couple looking for a house in the neighborhood and a dealer who collected classic cars like mine. The transactions would close in a week, right after my birthday. The irony was perfect. Eleanor, Arthur said as I signed, I know you have your reasons, but have you thought about where you're going to live? I smiled for the first time in days. I've thought of everything, Arthur. Absolutely everything. And it was true. I had a plan. I had a way out. And I had the quiet satisfaction of being smarter than those who thought I was a helpless old woman. The next few days were surreal. Robert called every night to coordinate details for the party, while I knew exactly what he was coordinating. Brenda stopped by the house to measure the table, but I saw her discreetly measuring the living room, calculating which pieces of furniture were worth keeping. 2 days before the party, Anna came running over, distraught. Grandma, I heard Dad and Mom talking. Something about doctors and papers. I didn't really understand, but it sounded bad. I hugged her tight. My little Anna, the only innocent one in all of this. Don't you worry, my love. Everything is going to be all right. And for the first time in weeks, it was true. On Saturday morning, my birthday, I woke before dawn with a mental clarity I hadn't felt in months. As I made coffee in the kitchen that would soon no longer be mine, I mentally reviewed every detail of what I had discovered. It wasn't just that one phone call from Robert. There was so much more. A web of lies and manipulation that had been woven for months without my realizing it. It had all started in February, when Brenda began making seemingly innocent comments about my forgetfulness. Eleanor, you left the key in the lock all night yesterday, she had told me with a worried smile. It was a lie. I always checked the locks before bed, a 50-year habit, but when I denied it, she exchanged a meaningful look with Robert. Mom, it's normal at your age. Don't feel bad. In March, it was my supposed forgetfulness with money. Don't you remember you lent me $200 last week? Robert asked during dinner. I knew perfectly well I hadn't lent him anything, but he insisted so much that I started to doubt my own memory. I brought you the grocery receipt so you can see I spent it on food for Anna, he added, showing me a piece of paper I had never seen before. In April, I found out Brenda had been talking to Carol, my neighbor, telling her fabricated stories about my mental health. Carol told me you're very worried about me, I said to her one day over coffee. Carol got nervous, stirring her sugar longer than necessary. Well, Eleanor, your daughter-in-law mentioned that you sometimes get confused with dates, that you repeat the same stories. Stories I had never repeated, dates I remembered perfectly. But the most devastating discovery came a week before my birthday, when I decided to check my bank statements online. Someone had been accessing my accounts. The access dates didn't match the times I had checked my finances. I called the bank immediately. Mrs. Miller, there are indeed records of access from another computer. Have you shared your passwords with any family members? I had never shared my passwords with anyone, but I remembered that Robert had helped me set up my new computer in January. He had insisted on keeping the passwords for me, just in case something happened. At the time, it seemed like a caring gesture. Now I understood it had been the first step in a calculated plan to access my financial information. That same afternoon, I pretended to have computer trouble and called Robert. Son, could you come help me? The screen looks funny. He came over in less than an hour, too eager to be casual. While he fixed the computer, I stayed in the kitchen, but I could see the screen's reflection in the glass of the china cabinet. He was checking my accounts, jotting down numbers on a piece of paper he quickly put away when he was done. All set, Mom. It was just a connection issue, he said with a smile. By the way, have you thought about hiring someone to help you with this stuff? At your age, technology can be confusing. At my age, the phrase he had turned into his favorite weapon, as if turning 71 had automatically transformed me into a mental invalid. That night, after Robert left, I called the bank again. I want to change all my access codes and activate security alerts for any inquiry not made from my personal computer. The bank employee explained how, and also recommended I check for any attempts to request information about my accounts. What I found chilled me to the bone. There were 3 credit information requests in my name in the last 2 months, requests I had not authorized. Someone had been investigating my financial situation as if to apply for a loan or make a major transaction. The dates perfectly coincided with visits from Robert and Brenda. On the Thursday before my birthday, while pretending to take a nap, I heard Brenda on the phone in the living room. Yes, doctor, we have all the financial information now. The house is worth more than we thought. No, she doesn't suspect a thing. Robert says she's been more forgetful lately, so it'll be easy to convince her it's for her own good. I lay paralyzed in my bed, feigning sleep while my daughter-in-law planned my future as if it were a business transaction. The lawyer says that with the psychologist's diagnosis, the power of attorney will be a sure thing. Once we have that, we can handle everything without complications. The facility we saw yesterday is fine, not luxury, but it's safe and relatively cheap. Relatively cheap. For them, who would pocket the difference between my house's value and the cost of institutionalizing me. I calculated mentally. If they sold my house for $450,000 and a facility cost $2,000 a month, they would have enough to keep me locked away for more than 15 years. And in the meantime, they would live comfortably on my money. But what hurt most was what she said next. Anna is the only problem. She's gotten too attached to her grandmother. Last night she asked me why we don't visit her more often, why we always find excuses not to stay. We're going to have to handle that carefully. Anna, my little granddaughter, being seen as a problem because she truly loved me. That same night, when Anna came for dinner, as she did every Thursday, I watched her differently. Her sad eyes, the way she hugged me, as if it were the last time, the timid questions about my health. Grandma, do you feel lonely in this big house? She asked as we washed dishes together. It wasn't a casual question. It was a question she had been taught to ask. Sometimes, my love, but it's my home. All my memories with your grandfather, with you, with the family are here. Anna nodded, but I saw tears in her eyes. Dad says maybe it would be better if you lived somewhere with more people your age. He says you wouldn't be so lonely then. The words came out of her mouth as if she had memorized them, but her heart wasn't in them. "What do you think, Anna?" I asked, slowly drying my hands. "I think you're the strongest grandma in the world and that this is your house, but Dad says that sometimes adults have to make tough decisions for the people they love." Tough decisions for the people they love. The script was perfectly written. That night, after Anna left, I sat at my desk and took out all the documents I had gathered. I had copies of their secretly recorded phone conversations, pictures of the papers Robert had forgotten, screenshots of my bank accounts showing the unauthorized access. I had enough evidence to prove they had been planning this for months, but more importantly, I had the signed and notarized sales contracts. The house would be officially transferred the Monday after my birthday. The car, on Tuesday. By Wednesday, I would no longer own anything they coveted. And by then, I would be 500 miles away, starting a new life where no one would call me forgetful or confused. My lawyer, Arthur, had been discreet but efficient. Eleanor, the buyers are very excited. The young couple says it's exactly what they were looking for, and the collector has already deposited the money for the car. "Are you sure you want to do this without telling your family?" I was more sure than ever. My family had lost the right to have an opinion on my life the moment they decided to plan my confinement behind my back. On Friday, the night before my birthday, Robert called to confirm the final details. "Mom, tomorrow is going to be a very special day. Brenda is making your favorite dessert. Anna wrote something to read to you. And I have a surprise for you." A surprise. Probably the power of attorney papers disguised as a birthday gift. "What kind of surprise, son?" I asked, feigning innocence. "It's something we've been planning for months, something that will change your life for the better. You won't have to worry about a thing anymore, Mom. We'll take care of everything." The arrogance in his voice confirmed that he believed he had everything under control, that his mother was just a manipulable old woman waiting to be rescued by his superior plans. That night I went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves, but from a strange peace. For months, I had felt like a cornered animal, confused by the conflicting signals, doubting my own perception of reality. But now, everything was clear. Tomorrow would be my last day in this house, my final performance as the naive grandmother they thought I was. Because on Monday, when they came to claim their early inheritance, they would find that their miserable, selfish matriarch had played the game better than they had. My birthday dawned gray, as if the sky knew what was coming. As I prepared breakfast, every gesture had a bittersweet taste. It was the last time I would open that pantry, the last time I would use the coffee maker I bought 15 years ago, the last morning in my kitchen. But it was also the day my family would show their true colors, believing they finally had everything under control. Robert arrived at 10 o'clock with a smile that was too wide and a bouquet of cheap grocery store flowers. "Happy birthday, Mom. Are you excited for the party?" I hugged him as I always did, but this time I studied his face, searching for traces of the boy he had been, the son I thought I had raised. I found nothing familiar in those calculating eyes. "Brenda is coming later with Anna to decorate," he continued, sitting at the kitchen table as if he owned it. "But first, I wanted to talk to you alone. I have that surprise I mentioned." Here it came. The moment they had rehearsed, the blow they thought would be soft and merciful. "What is it, son?" I feigned innocent curiosity, while my heart beat with the coldness of approaching vengeance. Robert pulled a manila envelope from his briefcase, the same kind of envelope where I kept my sales documents. The irony made me smile internally. "Mom, Brenda and I have been very worried about you. This house is too big, and handling money and papers at your age, well, it's a lot of stress." He began with the speech he had perfected, his voice full of a false concern that made me nauseous. "We found a beautiful facility, Mom, with gardens, a library, activities, people your age to talk to. You wouldn't have to worry about cooking, cleaning, paying bills anymore." Every word was a dagger wrapped in velvet. "And so you don't have to worry about the money. We've prepared these papers. You just need to sign here, and I'll take care of everything. Selling the house, managing your accounts, finding the best facility." He spread the papers on the table. A broad power of attorney, authorization to sell properties, designation of a financial guardian, all written in complex legal language designed to confuse a forgetful old woman. It's just a formality, Mom, to protect you. The lawyer says it's the smartest thing to do at your age. I took the papers and reviewed them slowly, feigning confusion. I don't really understand all this fine print, son. What does it mean exactly? Robert leaned toward me with that condescending smile he had perfected. It means you don't have to worry about anything anymore. I take care of everything. I sell the house for a good price. I invest your money. I pay for the facility. You just have to relax and enjoy. And what if I don't want to go to a facility? I asked in a timid voice. What if I want to stay in my house? Robert's mask cracked for a second. Mom, that's not an option. This house is too expensive to maintain. Too big for one person. And your health? Well, the doctor says you need supervision. The doctor? What doctor? When did you speak to my doctor, Robert? He grew flustered, searching for an answer. The psychologist I recommended, remember? The one you went to see last month? I had never been to any psychologist. I don't remember going to any psychologist, son. His eyes hardened. See, Mom? That's exactly what worries me. Your forgetfulness is getting worse. At that moment, I understood the depth of his manipulation. They hadn't just planned to rob me, they had built an entire narrative about my mental decline. They probably had witnesses prepared, maybe even a fake diagnosis. Robert, I said in the most fragile voice I could muster, I'm confused. There are so many things I don't remember lately. His smile returned, believing he had won. It's normal, Mom. That's why you need help. That's why these papers are important. Sign here, and I'll take care of everything. He handed me a gold pen, the same one I had used to sign the sales contracts 3 days ago. I just need your signature, Mom. It's for your own good. I took the pen, held it over the paper, and looked him directly in the eyes. Robert, before I sign, I want to ask you something. Do you really think I'm a clueless old woman who doesn't understand what's happening? His smile faltered. Mom, what are you talking about? His voice had lost its artificial sweetness. I'm talking about whether you really think I didn't notice you've been checking my bank accounts for months without my permission. The pen hovered over the paper. If you think I didn't hear your phone calls about cheap nursing homes and houses worth a fortune? The color drained from his face. If you think I don't know you invented visits to psychologists that never happened? Robert shot to his feet, all pretense gone. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. You're confused. This is exactly what the doctor— What doctor, Robert? I interrupted. My voice no longer fragile. Give me his name. Give me his phone number. Let's call him right now. He was silent, trapped in his own lie. In that silence, we heard the sound of keys in the front door. Brenda and Anna had arrived. Mom, Robert whispered urgently. Sign the papers now. We'll talk later. But I had already put the pen down on the table. I'm not signing anything, son. And I think it's time your wife and daughter knew exactly what kind of man you are. Brenda walked into the kitchen with her arms full of balloons and decorations, her fake smile perfectly in place. Eleanor, happy birthday. Did you give her the surprise, honey? She looked to Robert for confirmation, but what she saw in his face made her stop short. Anna appeared behind her mother, carrying a homemade cake, her eyes shining with genuine joy. Grandma, I made your favorite cake. The chocolate fudge, one you've always loved. Her voice was pure happiness, the only real emotion in the entire charade. I looked at her and felt a pang of pain. Anna knew nothing. For her, this really was a birthday celebration. She was the only innocent one in this betrayal. Anna, my love, the cake looks beautiful, I told her with genuine tenderness. Then I looked at Brenda, who had noticed the papers on the table and the tension in the air. Brenda, your husband just offered me a wonderful opportunity. He wants to sell my house, manage my money, and lock me up in a facility. All for my own good, of course. Brenda exchanged a nervous glance with Robert. Anna set the cake on the counter and frowned. What are you guys talking about? Selling Grandma's house? Her voice was small, confused. Anna, go set up the balloons in the living room, Robert ordered sharply. But Anna didn't move. She came to my side and took my hand. Grandma, what's really going on? In her eyes, I saw the same intelligence she had inherited from me, The same ability to see through lies. What's going on, my love, is that your father thinks I'm too old to take care of myself. He thinks I should sign these papers so he can sell my house and decide where I live. Anna read the papers quickly, her expression changing from confusion to horror. Dad, this is wrong. Grandma isn't crazy. You can't take her house from her. Robert lost his temper. Anna, you don't understand. Adults make tough decisions. Your grandmother needs care we can't give her here. What care? She cooks better than Mom. She keeps the house perfect. She remembers everyone's birthday. Anna turned to Brenda, looking for support, but her mother avoided her gaze. Mom, you agree with this too? Brenda didn't answer, and in that silence, Anna understood the whole truth. You're trying to rob Grandma, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. It's not robbing, Robert yelled. It's taking care of her. This house is worth a fortune, and she can't manage that much money on her own. And who's going to manage it? You? Anna asked with a maturity that broke my heart. To pay for my private college? The silence that followed was deafening. At that moment, we all understood there was no turning back. The masks had fallen, the lies were exposed. And Anna, my little granddaughter, had seen her parents for who they really were. The silence was broken when Brenda finally spoke, her voice cold as steel. Anna, go to your room. This is a conversation for adults. But Anna held my hand tighter. Number, if you're going to decide about Grandma's life, I have a right to be here. The firmness in her voice filled me with both pride and pain. My 16-year-old granddaughter had more courage than the adults around her. Robert started pacing the kitchen like a caged animal. This is ridiculous. Mom, you're manipulating Anna with your stories. You know this is what's best for you. He turned to me, his desperation growing. You know you can't keep living alone. The neighbors have told us things, Mom. Forgetfulness, confusion, leaving the keys in the door. Which neighbors, Robert? I asked with deadly calm. Give me names. Give me specific dates. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Carol, Carol told us. Carol, I repeated, and walked to the kitchen phone. Let's call her right now. Ask her exactly what she told you. I dialed Carol's number while Robert tried to stop me. Carol, it's Eleanor. Could you come over for a moment? My family is here, and there's a misunderstanding we need to clear up. Carol arrived in less than 5 minutes, wiping her hands on her apron, with the worried expression of someone who smells trouble. Carol, I said as she entered the kitchen and saw the tense faces. My son says that you told him I forget things, that I leave the keys in the door, that I'm confused. Is that true? Carol looked at Robert and then at me, clearly uncomfortable. Eleanor, I never. Well, Brenda asked me if I'd noticed anything strange about you, but I told her you were perfectly fine. Brenda turned red as a beet. Carol, you told me you were worried about her. Carol shook her head vigorously. I told you that it seemed to me you were very interested in your mother-in-law's affairs. I asked you why you were asking me so many questions about her routines, her schedule, if she had visitors. The truth landed like a bomb in the kitchen. You were the one who told me Eleanor repeats stories, Brenda insisted, desperate. Carol crossed her arms. Brenda, I've known Eleanor for 20 years. She's the sharpest woman in the neighborhood. The only one repeating stories here is you, inventing problems that don't exist. Anna let go of my hand and turned to her parents with an expression of total disgust. You even lied about the neighbors. Just how far did your plan go? Robert completely lost his composure. Enough. Anna, you don't understand the responsibilities of being an adult. This house is a burden. The upkeep costs a fortune. And your grandmother can't live alone forever. His mask had fallen completely. A burden for whom, Dad? For you, who doesn't pay a single dollar for maintenance? For you, who only comes around when you need to borrow money? Anna was furious. Her cheeks flushed like when she was little and saw an injustice. Grandma pays her own electricity, her own food, her own medicine. You're the burden. Carol, who had been following the conversation with growing outrage, addressed Robert. So this was your plan. That's why Brenda came asking me about your mother's schedule, about when she went out, when she got mail. You were spying on her. She turned to me with apologetic eyes. Eleanor, forgive me. I didn't know they were using our conversations to build lies. Brenda tried to regain control. This is getting out of hand. Eleanor, you know we love you. We just want what's best for you. That facility we found is lovely. They have activities. Nurses 24 hours a day. Her voice had regained that fake sweetness that gave me chills. Have you already paid for it? I asked with genuine curiosity. Have you already reserved my spot in that lovely facility? Brenda hesitated. Well, not exactly. We need the funds first. The funds from the sale of my house? I completed the sentence. Because a facility with all those amenities must be expensive, right? Mom, what does money matter when it's for your well-being? Robert interjected, trying to sound noble. The money is exactly what matters, son. My money. The money I earned working for 40 years. That I saved dollar by dollar. That I invested wisely. I stepped closer to him until we were face to face. Money you plan to spend on a private university for Anna, while you lock me away in the cheapest place you could find. Anna gasped. Is that true? You were going to use Grandma's money for my college? Robert and Brenda exchanged desperate looks. Anna, your education is important, Brenda murmured. Not if it comes from robbing my grandmother. I'd rather work and go to a state school than be an accomplice to this. Carol, who had been listening to everything with growing horror, came over to me. Eleanor, what are you going to do? You can't stay here with these people. It's not safe. I smiled for the first time in the whole conversation. Carol, don't worry about me. I have everything under control. Robert drew himself up, his arrogance returning. Under control? Mom, you have no options. Without our help, you can't handle this house, the money, the paperwork. Can't I? I asked, walking to the drawer where I kept my important documents. I took out the copies of the sales contracts and placed them on the table, next to the power of attorney papers he had brought. Robert, do you recognize these documents? He took the papers, and his face transformed as he read. This is a sales contract for this house. His voice was barely a whisper. Signed 3 days ago. Notarized. Valid. Brenda snatched the papers from his hands. This is impossible. You can't sell the house without consulting the family. Her voice had become shrill, desperate. I can, and I did, I replied calmly. It's my house. It's in my name. I am mentally competent, as the notary who oversaw the transaction well knows. Anna looked at the papers in amazement. Grandma, you sold the house? When? Why? Her eyes filled with tears, not of betrayal, but of understanding. I sold it 3 days ago, my love, after I accidentally overheard your parents' plans to steal everything I have. I looked directly at Robert. You think I'm a clueless old woman? You were wrong. I am a 71-year-old woman who worked as an accountant for 20 years and who knows exactly how to protect her assets. Robert was reading the contracts with growing disbelief. The buyers take possession on Monday. Monday. That's the day after tomorrow. His voice was breaking. Mom, you can't do this. Where are you going to live? What are you going to do? The concern in his voice might have sounded genuine if I didn't know he was only worried about the money slipping through his fingers. I'm going to live where I decide to live, son. With my money. On my terms. Surrounded by people who aren't planning to rob me while serving me champagne on my own birthday. Carol clapped slowly. Bravo, Eleanor, bravo. Anna came over and hugged me tightly. Grandma, you're the smartest woman in the world. Brenda was frantically checking the other documents on the table. There's more here. You sold the car, too. Her voice was pure panic. That's right. It's being delivered on Tuesday. I sat in my favorite chair, feeling more relaxed than I had in months. By Wednesday, I will no longer own anything that you coveted. But Mom. Robert approached me with his hands outstretched, as if to beg. We're your family. You can't just disappear. What will become of us? The question made me laugh. A bitter laugh that surprised everyone. What will become of you? The same question I should be asking myself after discovering my own family planned to lock me up and rob me. At that moment, as if the universe wanted to add drama to the situation, the doorbell rang. We all froze. Are you expecting someone else, Mom? Robert asked in a tense voice. I smiled with a tranquility that surprised me. That must be Arthur, my lawyer. I asked him to come by to witness this conversation. Robert's face completely fell. Your lawyer? What do you need a lawyer for? I walked to the front door, feeling all eyes on my back. To protect myself from my own family, son. To make sure that everything you say today is legally recorded. I opened the door, and there was Arthur, with his leather briefcase and his serious but reassuring expression. Eleanor, is everything all right? You sounded tense on the phone. Everything is perfect, Arthur. My family has just discovered that I sold the house and the car. As you can imagine, they're not very happy. Arthur entered the living room where everyone was now gathered. Carol had decided to stay as a moral witness. Anna had sat on the sofa, her eyes red but her jaw firm, and Robert and Brenda looked like two criminals caught in the act. Good afternoon, Arthur greeted professionally. I'm Arthur Cole, Mrs. Miller's attorney. I understand there are some concerns about the recent real estate transactions. Robert stepped forward aggressively. Those transactions are illegal. My mother is not in a mental state to make such important decisions. Arthur opened his briefcase and took out a thick folder. Mr. Miller, allow me to contradict you. Your mother underwent a full psychological evaluation a week ago, at my request, to ensure the validity of the transactions. The silence was absolute. Psychological evaluation? Brenda stammered. When? With whom? Arthur consulted his papers. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a certified clinical psychologist. Mrs. Miller achieved perfect scores on all competency tests. Excellent mental state, memory intact, sound judgment, decision-making capacity completely normal for her age. Anna couldn't help but smile. Grandma, you're a genius. Robert was reading over Arthur's shoulder. This is dated last week. How did you know you would need this? I looked at him with the patience of a teacher explaining something obvious to a slow child. I knew I would need this from the moment I heard you on the phone talking about fake diagnoses and powers of attorney. Arthur continued to pull out documents. I also have here the audio recordings Mrs. Miller made of several conversations where plans to gain control of her assets without her consent were discussed. Brenda turned pale. Recordings? You recorded us? In my own home, Brenda, which is perfectly legal. Robert tried one last desperate move. This is all a conspiracy. Mom, this lawyer is manipulating you, filling your head with paranoid ideas. Arthur took off his glasses and looked at Robert with a stern expression. Sir, I have been a lawyer for 30 years. Your mother contacted me with very specific evidence of a plan to gain control of her assets through deceit. What you call paranoia, the law calls attempted financial abuse of an elder. The words financial abuse hung in the air like a bomb. Anna stood up from the sofa. Is that what you were doing? Financial abuse? Arthur nodded gravely. It's a criminal offense, young lady. A very serious one. Especially when it involves significant amounts of money and vulnerable victims. My mother is not vulnerable, Robert shouted. She manipulated all of us. She set a trap for us. Arthur smiled slightly. Your mother protected herself brilliantly and completely legally. If that seems like manipulation to you, perhaps you should reflect on your own intentions. Carol, who had been listening in silence, finally spoke up. Robert, I saw you for months asking Brenda about your mother's schedule, her routines, when she received mail from the bank. If you weren't planning anything wrong, why were you so interested in spying on her? Robert had no answer. Brenda tried to change tactics. Eleanor, I understand you're upset. Maybe we were wrong in how we approached things, but we're family. We can solve this by talking. Her voice had lost all its arrogance and sounded almost pleading. Maybe you can cancel the sale, get the house back, and we can start over. Cancel the sale? I repeated, as if it were the most absurd idea in the world. Brenda, I signed legally binding contracts. The buyers have already paid. The money is already in my new bank account, an account that you do not and will never have access to. The reality of what I had done finally hit them with its full force. Arthur added more fuel to the fire. Furthermore, Mrs. Miller has taken additional measures. She has changed all her banking passwords, revoked any prior access to her accounts, and updated all her identification documents with new contact addresses. Robert slumped into a chair, defeated. "Arthur," I said calmly, "could you please explain to them the legal implications of what they were planning to do?" The lawyer became serious. "Attempting to obtain power of attorney through deceit, falsifying or exaggerating medical conditions, and planning the sale of properties without the owner's true consent constitute several crimes: fraud, financial elder abuse, and potentially conspiracy." Anna approached her parents with an expression of profound disappointment. "Do you realize what you've done? You didn't just try to rob Grandma. You made me an accomplice without me knowing it. You had me ask questions, say things, participate in your plan without knowing I was helping to hurt the person I love most." Brenda started to cry, but they were tears of self-pity, not genuine remorse. "Anna, you don't understand. We wanted to secure your future, a good college, opportunities we never had." Anna looked at her with disgust. "My future built on robbing my grandmother? Is that the kind of person you want me to be?" Robert tried one last emotional argument. "Mom, we're your family. Without us, you'll be completely alone. Is that what you want? To die alone and abandoned?" His words were meant to hurt me, but they only confirmed that he had never understood who I really was. "Robert, I have been alone since the moment you decided to see me as an obstacle instead of your mother." Arthur closed his briefcase with a definitive click. "Eleanor, is there anything else you need to clarify today?" I looked at my family for the last time as a group. Robert, defeated and furious. Brenda, crying over her failed plan. And Anna, my dear Anna, looking at me with a mixture of admiration and sadness that broke my heart. "Just one more thing," I said, addressing Anna specifically. "My love, I want you to know that everything I did was to protect myself, not to hurt you. You will always be my granddaughter, no matter what decisions your parents make." Anna came over and hugged me tight. "Grandma, I want to stay with you. I don't want to live with them after this." Anna's declaration was like a final slap in the face to Robert and Brenda. Their own daughter was rejecting them for their actions. "Anna, you can't stay," Robert said weakly. "Eleanor doesn't have a house for you to live in anymore." Anna looked at me with hope in her eyes. "Grandma, is that true? You have nowhere to live?" I smiled and stroked her hair. "I have exactly where I want to live, my love. And if your heart tells you that you want to come with me, the doors will always be open for you, because that was the difference between them and me. They had planned to take everything from me. I had planned to save myself, but I would never have closed the door on genuine love." Carol applauded again. "Eleanor, you're an inspiration to all women our age." Arthur gathered his documents. "If you'll excuse me, I have other matters to attend to. Eleanor, I'll see you tomorrow for the final details." He headed for the door, then turned back to Robert and Brenda. "I strongly advise you to respect Mrs. Miller's decisions. Any attempt at harassment or intimidation will be dealt with by the full extent of the law." And so, in my own living room, surrounded by the birthday balloons my granddaughter had hung with love, my family disintegrated forever. But for the first time in months, I felt completely free. After Arthur left, the silence in the living room was deafening. The birthday balloons swayed gently in the breeze from the window, a cruel reminder of what was supposed to be a family celebration. Robert stood up slowly, like a man who had just received a terminal diagnosis. "Mom, it can't end like this. We're your family." "No," I answered with a surprising calm. "You stopped being my family the moment you decided to plan my confinement. A family protects you, they don't betray you." Anna was still by my side, her small hand in mine, like an anchor in the emotional storm that had been unleashed. Brenda wiped her tears, and her voice regained some of its usual hardness. "Eleanor, you're making a terrible mistake. What are you going to do? Go live in a hotel? Rent an apartment at your age?" There was poison in her words, a last-ditch attempt to make me feel vulnerable and helpless. "Do you think you can start over at 71? I smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd had in months. "Brenda, I'm 71 years old, not 71 days. I've lived more life than you can possibly imagine. I've survived the death of my husband. I've raised an ungrateful son. I've worked for 40 years. I've managed money and investments better than most businessmen. My voice grew stronger with each word. Do you really think I can't handle starting a new life? Carol approached Brenda with a stern expression. Brenda, after what I've heard today, I think you should be grateful Eleanor isn't going to the police. Instead of asking her what she's going to do, you should be begging for forgiveness. Brenda looked at her with contempt. Carol, this is none of your business. It's a family problem. It became my business when you came to my house for months asking me about Eleanor, making up stories about her mental health, trying to make me an accomplice to your plan. Carol crossed her arms. I feel dirty just for having unknowingly participated in this. Robert tried to regain some control of the situation. Fine, Mom. If that's what you want, sell the house. But at least tell us where you're going to live. We have a right to know where our mother island. His words sounded reasonable, but I knew my son. He wasn't asking out of concern. He was asking because he needed to know where to find me for future attempts at manipulation. No, Robert. You have no rights. I walked to the window, looking out one last time at the garden I had tended for so many years. Rights are earned with love and respect. You lost both when you decided to treat me like an obstacle instead of your mother. Anna followed me, her presence silent but comforting. But Grandma, Anna spoke for the first time in several minutes. Are you really going to leave without telling us where? How will I visit you? Her eyes filled with tears again, and I felt my heart break. This was the hardest part of my plan. Saving my freedom meant risking losing the only family relationship I truly valued. I knelt in front of her, taking her hands in mine. Anna, my love, you are different. You didn't participate in this. You love me for real. I looked directly at Robert and Brenda. When Anna turns 18, when she can make her own decisions without her parents' influence, she will know exactly where to find me. Robert exploded. You can't do that. You can't separate Anna from her family. I'm not separating Anna from anyone, I answered firmly. I'm protecting her from becoming another one of your victims. How long do you think it would have been before you started using her love for me to manipulate her too? Brenda stepped forward aggressively. Anna is our daughter. You can't turn her against us. I don't need to turn her against you, Brenda. Your own actions already did that work. Anna stood tall, showing a maturity that filled me with pride. Mom, I saw what you did. I heard your plans. I don't need anyone to tell me anything to know that it's wrong. At that moment, as if a sign from fate, my cell phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but when I answered, a cheerful voice greeted me. Mrs. Miller, this is Carmen from the Parkside Vista Apartments. I was just calling to confirm you'll be arriving tomorrow as we discussed. Your apartment is ready, with the garden view you requested. I spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Yes, Carmen. I'll be there tomorrow afternoon. Has the reading chair by the window been set up? Of course, ma'am. And the desk for your accounting books is in place as well. I hung up and turned to my family, who stared at me in total shock. The Parkside Vista Apartments, Robert muttered. Those are the luxury apartments downtown. How can you afford? He stopped, realizing the implication. The money from the house. My money from my house, I corrected him. And my money is going to pay for my new home, where I will live with dignity and peace. Anna smiled through her tears. Grandma, those apartments are beautiful. They have a library, gardens. It's near the park where we used to walk. I nodded, pleased that she remembered our walks. Exactly, my love. A place where an old woman can be happy, without being seen as a burden. Carol clapped enthusiastically. Eleanor, those apartments are perfect for you. Independent, but with services if you need them. And the community there is wonderful, interesting, educated people. She turned to Robert and Brenda with obvious satisfaction. It seems your mother has everything very well planned. Brenda made one last, desperate attempt. Eleanor, those apartments cost a fortune. What if you get sick? What if you need medical care? All that money will run out, and then you'll really need us. Her voice had a threatening tone, as if she were predicting my ruin with satisfaction. Brenda, I worked as an accountant for 20 years and have managed investments for 30. I have private health insurance, an emergency fund, and enough money invested to live comfortably for at least another 20 years. I looked her directly in the eyes. And if something happens to me, Everything that's left will go to a foundation that helps elderly victims of family abuse." The silence that followed was like a tombstone falling on Robert and Brenda's hopes. Any fantasy they might have had about eventually inheriting anything had evaporated. "A foundation," Robert repeated in a hollow voice. "You're going to give our money to strangers." "My money," I corrected him one last time, "will go to help other people who are going through what I went through." Anna moved closer to me. "Grandma, can I ask you something? When I turn 18, can I really come see you?" Her voice was small, vulnerable. "Of course, my love. You'll have my address, my phone number, everything you need. And if you ever need to get away from difficult situations, you will always have a safe place with me." Robert caught the implication immediately. "Difficult situations? What are you implying to my daughter?" "I'm promising her that she will always have a choice," I replied calmly. "That she will never be trapped or without alternatives, no matter the circumstances." Anna understood perfectly what I was offering her. Freedom, independence, the possibility of escape if she ever needed it. Carol looked at her watch. "Eleanor, it's almost 6 o'clock in the evening. Don't you have things to do to prepare for your move tomorrow?" I nodded gratefully. Carol was giving me a graceful exit to end this confrontation. "You're right, Carol. I have several calls to make and some things to pack." I turned to Robert and Brenda. "I think it's time for you to leave. Anna can stay, if she wants to help me with a few things." Brenda stiffened. "Anna is coming with us. She's a minor." Anna looked at her parents with an expression I had never seen before. Pure contempt. "I'll go with you, but know that I will never forgive you for this. Never." As they headed for the door, Robert turned back one last time. "Mom, I hope you're happy with your decision. I hope losing your family for money is worth it." His words were designed to hurt me, to make me feel guilty, but they no longer had any power over me. "Robert," I said with genuine sadness, "I didn't lose my family for money. I lost my family because you traded it for money." Anna hugged me tightly before she left. "I love you, Grandma. 2 more years and I'll be free," she whispered so low only I could hear. "Stay strong." And as I watched their car drive away for the last time, I knew I had made the right decision. In 2 days, I would be in my new home, free from manipulation, free from betrayal, free from being seen as a burden. For the first time in years, my future belonged entirely to me. Monday morning arrived with a strange calm. I woke up in my bed for the last time, in the room where I had slept for 30 years, where I had mourned my husband's death, where I had dreamed of a future I never imagined would be like this. But I didn't feel nostalgia. I felt liberation. At 9 o'clock sharp, just as we had arranged, the moving truck arrived. I had hired a full-service company. They packed, loaded, and transported everything I had decided to take with me. It was surprising how little I actually needed. 50 years of life in that house were reduced to 3 boxes of photographs, my favorite books, a few pieces of clothing, and my important documents. I had donated everything else to different charities, the furniture to families in need, the clothes to women's shelters, the appliances to a technical school. There was a deep satisfaction in knowing that my things would serve to help others, instead of being sold by Robert and Brenda to finance their whims. Carol came to say goodbye as the workers finished loading the last boxes. "Eleanor, I can't believe you're really doing it. You're the bravest woman I know." We hugged on the front lawn, among the roses I had planted so many years ago. "Carol, take care of the flowers if you can. The new owners said they like them, but they might need some advice." "Of course." "And Eleanor, if you ever want me to give a message to Robert or Brenda—" "No," I interrupted her gently. "That chapter of my life closed yesterday. Now I'm starting a new one." Carol nodded, understanding. "And what if Anna asks for you when she turns 18? I smiled for the first time in days. "Anna will know where to find me. I trust she's smart enough to figure it out." At 11 o'clock, the new owners arrived. A young couple with a baby of a few months. They looked nervous but excited. "Mrs. Miller," the woman said, "we want to thank you for selling us this house so quickly. It's perfect for us." The baby babbled in her arms, and for a moment I felt a pang of what could have been. Grandchildren I could truly know. A family that saw me as a blessing instead of a burden. "I hope you'll be very happy here," I told them sincerely. This house has seen a lot of love over the years. It deserves a family that will appreciate it. I handed them the keys, and with that simple gesture, I officially ceased to be the owner of the place where I had built my adult life. It was noon when the taxi arrived to take me to my new home. I had decided not to drive there. I wanted this journey to be symbolic. A definitive passage between my old life and the new one. As the taxi pulled away from the street where I had lived for 3 decades, I didn't look back. I had learned that looking back only shows you what you've already lost. The Parkside Vista apartments were even more beautiful than I remembered from my visit the previous week. Immaculate gardens, shaded paths, a library with huge windows overlooking the park. Carmen, the manager, greeted me with a genuine smile. "Mrs. Miller, welcome to your new home. Are you excited?" "More than I can say," I replied. And it was completely true. My apartment was on the 3rd floor, overlooking the main garden and the park beyond. It had a bright living room, a small but efficient kitchen, a cozy bedroom, and my favorite part, a small study with windows facing west to catch the afternoon light. The movers arrived an hour after I did, and in less than 3 hours, everything was in its place. I had specified exactly where I wanted everything, and seeing my books on the new shelves, my family photos on the new table, my favorite armchair positioned perfectly by the window, gave me a feeling of home that I hadn't felt in months. That first night in my new apartment, I made a simple dinner and sat down to eat while watching the sunset from my window. The silence was not the heavy, tense silence of the last few months in my old house. It was a peaceful silence, full of possibilities. For the first time in so long, the future looked bright. On Tuesday morning, as I was having coffee and toast in my small kitchen, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but when I answered, I heard Robert's furious voice. "Mom, where are you? We went to the house, and there are strangers living there. A woman with a baby told us they bought the house on Monday. Is that true?" "Good morning, Robert," I replied calmly, stirring my coffee. "Yes, it's true. As I explained on Saturday, I sold the house. The new owners took possession yesterday, just as was contractually agreed." I could hear Brenda screaming something in the background, but I couldn't make out the words. "This is unbelievable. You can't just disappear. Where are you living now?" His voice had that hysterical quality I remembered from when he was a child and didn't get what he wanted. "I'm living where I decided to live, son. In a beautiful, safe, and appropriate place for a woman my age. Tell me where. Number." The simplicity of my answer left him speechless for a moment. "No? What do you mean, no?" "I mean exactly that. I'm not going to tell you where I live. Not until you prove you can respect me as a person and as your mother." There was a long pause, and then I heard Brenda snatch the phone from him. "Eleanor, this is ridiculous. We're your family. Anna asks about you every day. How do I explain to her that her grandmother just vanished?" Brenda sounded less aggressive than Robert, probably calculating that a more emotional approach would work better. "Tell her the truth, Brenda. Tell her that her grandmother left because she discovered you were planning to steal everything she had. We weren't going to steal from you. We were going to take care of you. You were going to have me committed against my will, to sell my properties and use my money for your expenses. What do you call that? Eleanor, please, we can fix this. We can talk like adults." I tried to talk like adults. You preferred to plan behind my back. That opportunity has passed. I hung up the phone and put it on silent. I had no intention of allowing Robert and Brenda to disturb the peace I had worked so hard to achieve. Over the next few days, the phone rang constantly. Calls from blocked numbers, pleading voicemails from Brenda, even an attempt by Robert to impersonate a doctor to get information about my location. On Thursday, I received a certified letter. The sender was a law firm I didn't know. Inside was a legal notice. Robert had initiated proceedings to have me declared mentally incompetent and obtain legal guardianship over me. He alleged that my erratic behavior and irrational financial decisions proved I needed legal supervision. I immediately called Arthur. "Don't worry, Eleanor," he told me after reviewing the documents. "This is exactly what we expected them to try. We have all the necessary documentation to refute their claims. The psychological evaluation, the neighbors' testimonies, the recordings of their conversations. This case isn't going anywhere. But will I have to go to court? Face them in a courtroom? The thought exhausted me. Probably not. Their lawyer is going to review our documentation and will advise them to withdraw the lawsuit. They have no real evidence of mental incompetence. And we have abundant evidence that they are the ones who acted inappropriately. That night, as I read in my new armchair by the window, I reflected on the absurdity of the situation. My own son was suing me because I had been too smart for his robbery scheme. The irony was almost amusing, if it weren't so painful. On Friday afternoon, while walking through the gardens of my new residential complex, I met other residents, women my age or older. Some widows like me, others divorced. Some single women who had chosen to live independently. They all had similar stories. Children who saw them as burdens. Families who underestimated them. The constant struggle to maintain their dignity and independence in a society that saw them as invisible. "Eleanor," said Elena, a 75-year-old woman who had been a university professor, "you did the right thing. I also had to distance myself from my family when they started treating me as if I were senile. The difference is, I wasn't smart enough to protect my assets ahead of time. I lost a lot before I realized what was happening." Her words confirmed that I had made the right decision. Not all women my age had been lucky enough to discover the plans in time or smart enough to fight back effectively. I had saved myself, and maybe my story could inspire others to do the same. 6 months after my move, my life had found a rhythm I hadn't experienced in years. Every morning I woke up without the anxiety of wondering what new manipulations awaited me. Instead, I had days filled with activities I truly enjoyed. Painting classes in the complex's library, morning walks in the park, afternoons reading in my armchair by the window. Robert's lawsuit had been withdrawn, just as Arthur had predicted. His lawyer had explained to him that not only did he have no evidence of my mental incompetence, but my actions demonstrated the exact opposite. The case had vanished as quickly as it had appeared. One October afternoon, as I was watering the plants on my small balcony, I saw a familiar figure walking along the main garden path. It was Anna, but not the 16-year-old girl I remembered. This Anna was a newly turned 18, with longer hair and a more confident posture. She walked straight toward my building with determination in every step. "Grandma," she said when she saw me, her voice having a new quality, more mature but filled with emotion. We hugged in the middle of the lobby, and I felt something broken inside me finally heal. "I turned 18 last week," she whispered against my shoulder. "And the first thing I did was hire a private investigator to find you." I took her up to my apartment, where I made tea while she explored my new home. "Grandma, this is beautiful. It's exactly how I imagined it would be." She sat on the sofa, looking at the family photos I had kept. "I've thought about you every single day for these 2 years. How are your parents?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. Anna sighed deeply. "Dad had to sell the car last year. Apparently, he had been taking out loans using your house as collateral, not knowing you no longer owned it. When the banks found out the house had been sold, they demanded immediate repayment. The irony was perfect. And Brenda?" I asked. "Mom had to get a full-time job for the first time in her life. She works in an office. She hates every minute of it, but they need the money." Anna took a sip of tea. "They lost everything they had been counting on. And the worst part is, they still blame you instead of acknowledging what they did. Anna, I am so proud of you. You've become exactly the strong woman I hoped you would be." "I learned from the best," she replied, taking my hand. "During these 2 years, whenever I felt discouraged, I would ask myself, what would Grandma do? And that gave me the strength to keep going." Anna told me about her psychology studies, her job at a bookstore, her plans to specialize in elder abuse. "I want to help other grandmothers like you, who are being manipulated by their own families." I told her about my new life, the friends I had made, the classes I was taking, the peace I had found. Before she left, Anna gave me one final surprise. "Grandma, I've been saving money from my job, and I want to give you something back." She took an envelope out of her purse. "It's not much, but it's what I could put together. I know Dad and Mom will never apologize to you, but I want to." Inside, I found $50 in small bills. It was obviously money she had saved penny by penny. "Anna, I can't accept this. You need this money for college." "Grandma, I need to give it to you. I need you to know that not all of our family is like them." Tears streamed down my cheeks as I put the money away. Not because of the amount, but because of what it represented. In those $50 was all the love, respect, and dignity that Robert and Brenda had been unable to show me. That night, after Anna left with the promise to visit every weekend, I sat in my favorite armchair by the window and looked out at the city lights. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace with the decisions I had made. The next day, I called Arthur to make a change to my will. Anna would be my sole heir, not because she was my granddaughter, but because she had proven that she understood the value of respect, honesty, and genuine love. I wrote a letter to the local newspaper, telling my experience anonymously but in detail. The letter was published and generated dozens of responses from other people in similar situations. Some women wrote asking for advice. Others told me their own stories. I knew then that my painful experience had served a purpose greater than my own liberation. On Sundays, Anna and I cooked together, just like we used to when she was little. It was the family relationship I had always wanted, built on true love instead of obligation. And when Anna asked if I ever had any regrets, my answer was always the same. My love, you can't lose what you never really had, because in the end, I had learned that true love never comes with plans to control or steal, and that at 71 years old, I was still strong enough to start over and build the life I truly deserved. The miserable, selfish people never spoke my name again, and they never had the chance to.